Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week I'm joined by Matthew Barber. Say hello, Matt.
Hello!
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. And this week we are doing our first ever Polish beer. We are trying Tyskie.
Dzień dobry.
Probably butchering that, so apologies for everyone who actually can speak Polish and can realise that I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But yes, it's a quite big, or has always been around here in the UK for a while. But anyway, we'll get into that later. Matthew, what have you got for us for the hot topic?
Well, so news, right? So obviously the hot topic, I maybe we don't need to do a pitch it every week as though it's news to everyone, but one thing I'm pretty sure is not going to be news to you. I mean, this is big news. I'm talking big
news.
Like on the scale of it's like, you've got small, medium, it is large news, right?
It's, as the Spanish would say, grande news.
Grande news. So apparently,
were you trying to think of the Spanish word for news then?
I wouldn't have known to start off with, so I'm going to maintain I was just pausing for dramatic effect. So, news, and also, as does seem to be a theme that recurs with a lot of when we are talking about beers and breweries buying breweries. So,
yes.
Throw some words.
As we know, the brewing industry was built on mergers and acquisitions, don't we, Barber?
Exactly.
That's what we always say.
Yeah, and also friendships of people who like beer. And 5 key ingredients.
5
There are 3 elements that you can always count on. Friends liking beer, the 5 key ingredients, and breweries buying other breweries. And ignore the first 2. Today we're talking about breweries buying
That's easy for you to say. That's your favourite saying of all time.
Yeah, we've had that about 6 times in the last 2 episodes. So, I'll say a word and you say the first 4 brewery-themed words that come into your head. How about that?
Okay.
So, my first word, and you say the first 4 or 5 brewery-themed words that come out.
Okay.
Japan.
Crisp.
I'm glad you didn't put an S on the end. I thought you were going to say crisps. Niche. Okay, crisp, that's fine.
Yeah, crisp. Heritage when it comes to brewing.
Mm-hmm.
They consume a lot of beer as well, so volume. Mm-hmm. 4 and 5, okay, let's keep going. They're becoming a melting pot for craft beer. A lot of craft beer breweries are their kind of merger of movement of Brewdog into Japan really highlighted that, but Japan has got amazing craft beers.
You went way past your 5 words a long time ago.
Yeah, sorry, I will stop. I stopped.
Okay, no, that's okay. And so I'm right now. I want you to name.
I'm not sure where you go with this.
First 5 breweries who come to mind. If I were to say to you, craft brewers.
Just in the world?
Yeah, go worldwide.
Okay.
To that end, try and do a mix.
Okay, let's do Brewdog.
Yeah.
Let's do Vocation Brewery. Let's do Stone Brewing, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's do.
The pressure. The pressure.
It really has. Like Montauk Brewery springs to mind as well. I'm trying to think of a fantastic French craft brewer, but it's literally come out, literally escaped my brain.
Well, it's not the French one that I'm talking about anyway.
Okay.
Basically, you nailed it with your descriptions of Japanese brewing. So if I was to tell you Sapporo, I'm still pitching it like it's news to you. You know Sapporo.
What do you think? Sapporo and their purchase of Stone Brewing. Is that what you're talking about?
Why did I beat around the bush like that? Basically, ladies and gentlemen, Sapporo have now finally bought Stone Brewing. Mm-hmm. That's big news.
It's huge. I can't underestimate how big a news that is.
It's bigger than large or grande. I'd say it's mahusive is not a Spanish word, is it? but that's the territory we're talking of. Because Stone, trendsetters for craft.
Some would argue the the leaders in the craft brewing movement.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't undersell them. That doesn't oversell them. Sorry, like they are one of the brewers that a lot of craft beer companies have probably positioned themselves after, or angled themselves against, or said, hey, you guys are doing it great, I'd love to do what you're doing, but in my country, and so have done that in their country. This is one of the biggest craft beer names out there. Having listened to the owner of Stone Brewing talk about his kind of rise, to it, and he still is a very, very humbled guy, in the world, and he just basically said it was bloody hard. It wasn't like just suddenly it happened. No, he's still working on it, and he's fallen out with business partners. He's the money's gone away. He's had to do second, third mortgage his home just to kind of keep the lights on at Stone at some point. So the whole story behind Stone Brewing is nothing but a miracle of passion of brewing, and kind of that's why people love it so much in this craft brewing industry.
Yeah. So, just to give people the bit of detail that might be missing for anyone who's missed the bit of news is that, so it was actually confirmed last week, I believe there's $165 million Sapporo's acquisition for Stone Brewing. Japan, oldest beer brand, Sapporo, oldest beer brand in Japan, and basically they were sizing Stone up for expanding their operations, and I think they have made some reassurances about the people who worked at Stones. That's not under any threat, because they basically like what they're doing and are just looking to expand and also maybe get hold of that US market basically. So it's big. That presumably for anyone who's a fan of a craft beer, you've got to think that that's going to be bankrolling some new craft beers that everyone loves and enjoys. So I don't think there's anyone. Well, everyone can have their own opinion on it, but not necessarily a bad thing. But it is a merger of titanic proportions.
Yeah. Well, and I was kind of liking this because obviously when you think about a big company like Sapporo coming in and taking over craft beer, you're like, oh, it's over, all done. It's going to be new management. It's going to be a whole different beer. They've lost their soul. Mm-hmm. The fact that Stipp, who's the founder, is just really going, this is great. He literally, I'm quoting here, that this is
Maria Stipp, I think she's CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that she's saying that, that this is the most, this is an acquisition that's unlike any that's ever happened before, because that they've seen in craft, because it's the most, as she quoting, as the most uncompromising partnership they could have asked for. So basically what's happened is Sapporo is keeping everyone on. This is what they're saying, that no one is losing their jobs over at craft at Stone. Again, time will be the best advocate for that. We'll see what happens. But what's also happened is it's the brand of Stone and the production of Stone beers and also Sapporo's beers in the US is now going to be made by Stone. So if anything, it's there's more work now than there ever has been. That all of Sapporo's beers now in the US market is going to be made by Stone. So there's more there. But what they've also done is that Stone Distributing, which is their distribution network for their beers, has been carved out of the deals. They're not owned by Sapporo. No, Sapporo has their own distribution networks, and Stone have basically said, no, we'll have our own thing on this. That's basically the old management is keeping hold of this distribution network of Stone distribution, okay. And basically they're going to still act as a wholesaler, under this previous ownership. So it's interesting. It's an interesting kind of divide and conquer.
Legit. We'll see what happens with it. This is probably not the takeaway, but it's making me want to try Sapporo again.
I do like a Sapporo.
I did enjoy it, but also I think it's kind of knowing that I found it quite hard to get hold of. So now I want to try. I should probably have a few more of Stones, because they also do. Don't they also have? Is it Anchor Brewing is under the label as well? Something like that. I'm sure I haven't made that up, but it's big news. It's big news. We probably should have covered it earlier.
It's only just been announced. It's been rumour, speculation. Sapporo made their move or their announcement on June the 24th. So it's been brewing over the summer. Let's say.
Of course it has.
But it's as with everything with mergers and acquisitions, there's a lot of rumour mill, a lot of conversation going around. It's always good to talk about fact, and in a world of fake news, we're here talking about the real facts here at the I'll Try That podcast. We're bringing the facts to the people.
We might not be first, but we're accurate. At least I like to think so.
Fabulous. Well, why don't we slide into another beer that happens to be owned by a big multinational?
We should do that, except I just spilt some, so I just need to dab it up with a tissue. That is the ultimate sin, actually, on this podcast, isn't it, really? And I should have spilt it upon my
If we were still at university, Matthew, I'd be saying spillage equals lickage, so you'd have to do...
yes, sorry, Pursuit of Happiness today is Tyskie. Tyskie, and particularly Tyskie Gronie. This is going to be absolutely littered with apologies for poor pronunciation and accents, but a beer that I'm sure I've probably walked past plenty of times, and actually never really picked up, never really noticed. Polish, I was going to say Pilsner style lager, but I was just going to associate it with just being a lager. I'm trying to think why it's not been part of my previous repertoire. Possibly even my first time trying it right now.
Well, especially given the fact that Tyskie is the Lager Grand Prix. This is the Grand Champion winner at the Brewing Industry International Awards and the only two-time Grand Prix winner in the competition's 120-year history.
Well, that...
Mic drop, Tyskie.
Okay,
Woo!
Catch you later.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah, so Tyskie was founded in Poland in 1629.
Yeah, so that's going up there. That's not like... Of course, it's a long time, but that, even by brewery standards, that's a serious...
That's a really old brewery. And it's the only Polish brewery with continuous production for more than 375 years.
Yeah, fair play. That's also, is one of those beers. Then this is a bit of an assumption and a jump on my part, but I think this is a beer that's will have had a huge influence on a lot of German beers in the time since then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely that area. This is the one we're actually having. This Tyskie Gronie is a light lager. This is probably their most exported beer. The fact that we're picking up here in the UK. Tyskie is the number one beer in both Poland and Polish beer in the UK.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this is markets. In the US, Tyskie is like the Budweiser of the US. It's like the number one sold beer of a specific country.
Good analogy.
Yeah. So, like for us, that would be Carling or Foster's. I'm doing a discredit to Tyskie to say that it's like Carling or Foster's.
That is possibly the most depressing thing I've heard on this podcast so far.
I'd say it's more like Carling because Carling is trying to say we're about England, we're from Bolton, we're from all this kind of stuff. We're from up north, and we're all about England. Tyskie is for me is very it looks very Polish. From the look of the label. It's the white with the red stripe.
The white and red, yeah. It's nailed the sort of national colours, isn't it? But there's also a little bit of the, regal vibe there. Like, their emblem is a crown, isn't it? And that's about all I've got on it.
Okay. The fact that you just kind of did a big sigh, I thought you had something else to say. Yeah. So you're absolutely spot on. This is basically the Polish beer from the history. This is the one that's been around for so long. So much so that it's got special names in different countries. So, in German, it's known as the Fürstliche Brauerei Titschau, which is the princely brewery of Tyskie or Tyskie.
Yes, sorry, because it's called Tyskie, but it's from, I think that's actually how you pronounce the town
Tyskie.
it was originally came in, which is Tychy.
Yeah, Tyskie.
But
Tyskie.
Is that pronounced Tyskie?
I think you're absolutely spot on. It's basically, it was at one point the ownership of the German noble house of Prominitz.
Ah. We all remember that.
And then at some point, it got under new management of the Hans von Hochberg, which was a German prince, apparently, of the House of Pless. And then between 1918 and 1939, the brewery merged with the neighbouring competitive companies and came under the provisional administration of the Polish state between 1932 due to unpaid taxes.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. that's weird. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say dark period in history, but actually, sorry, 1918 to 1939 was the bit. In Europe,
before, pre-war. They do say that during World War II, the brewery was under management of occupying authorities. Yeah. That's basically what they refer to that as. But you're right. I mean, basically, it's got a very close link to the German border as well. Like, there's a natural, that's where Tyskie is. In Poland, it's close to the German border, which means obviously it's got a lot of German brewing heritage kind of intermingled here. This is not like Poland and Germany share a lot of kind of history, and especially that part of the borders. There's a lot of brewing knowledge that's shared between those kind of states and those areas.
Yeah, fair play. And I'm trying to find out now. I'm still doing my research at the moment, but I imagine that it's got like a Pilsner hop going on. Because that is that neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be. I haven't known about that, but I go back to the crown. So they are known for this distinctive white packaging, and the label depicts a royal crown to commemorate John III Sobieski, which is the King of Poland, who was born in 1629, the same year the family von Promenitz established a brewery in the town of Tyskie. So basically, they're to say, we started this brewery at this time, and this is the same year that this King of Poland was born. So it gets a crown.
With you. Okay, makes sense.
That's where the crown comes from.
So, I'm doing the old round the back door, finding out, you search by the actual original name. You get into Tychy. And I've realised, actually, a colleague has explained to me recently that actually the C, I think in Polish, is pronounced with like the S sound. So I think it's probably that we look at it as being the Tyskie as the spelling, but that I think it's pronounced Tyskie.
Tyskie, okay.
Yeah, so the C and H is the sk sound in comparison. So right word, you know what I mean? But why am I struggling to find do they not have their own website?
What I can find is who owns them. Can I give you a guess as to who owns them?
I think it might be SAB Miller.
They don't exist anymore, but I'll give you another go.
They might have done at some point. It was not even called Anheuser-Busch anymore, isn't it? That's the one that doesn't exist either. AB InBev.
It was AB. It was at one point AB InBev, but it was bought by Asahi back in 2017. So they are the current owners of this Polish beer. In the US, though, it is distributed by Molson Coors. So if you ever search for them and you get Molson Coors come up, it's because they're distributed by Molson Coors over there. And they've got some other agreements around the brand and spending of marketing and blah, 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 blah. But the actual owners of them is Asahi UK, here in the UK specifically. Okay.
That's interesting, because then I always wondered, I started thinking about this more and more as we do the podcast, is actually the beers that I see here in the UK, but again, we can get a bit of insight from this from our dear friend Simo in Australia. I'm going to speak on Travis's behalf and say, God, he should be here. But I am always curious to know about the differences between particularly places like Australia and the US about what is stocked in, your average off-license bottle-o liquor store, whatever it may be. And I imagine if Molson Coors have got onto Tyskie, I imagine it's something that American beer drinkers could probably get hold of quite readily then, right?
Quite possibly. I don't know. I mean, I know that they're, as they're saying here, that they own the Polish market. They've got about 18% of the Polish drink market, which makes them the number one. And they are the number one Polish beer here in the UK. I imagine you could probably find them in other parts of Europe as well. Whether they've gone further afield, I can't sure. I mean, obviously Asahi being Japanese, maybe you're finding them in other parts of Asia and Japan specifically. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but there is no. We want another one of those Data's beautiful charts, Barber, which tells you exactly where all these beers are sold and how they're sectioned up. A nice pie chart. Oh, let's throw back to a pie chart.
That's what I want to see. That's good. Or I was thinking about, if you watch any football these days or soccer, whether you could get like a globe and have a beer heat map and find out where they are like sold a lot, not where they're getting more touches of the ball. That could be a good one, couldn't it? I mean, Guinness would be the interesting one for that, because I know we played the whole game about who drinks the most Guinness, and there's always a few surprise packages in there. But I think every brewery should have that, a heat map of where they're sold. Drinking wise though, it's a solid number, isn't it? It's again that straw coloured. Thank you very much. You almost no one calls it a sessionable lager, but it is, albeit of a 5%, so it's a little more potent than the others that you find on the typical pub arch.
It would be what you would refer to as pokey, wouldn't it?
I've tried to get out of the habit of describing it as pokey.
No, give the listeners what they want. They're always asking a barber to say the word pokey.
Do you know what this beer is, Joe? Pause for effect. Nice is what it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's a nice bit.
Well, I'd say it does exactly as it says on the tin. It's
it's one of those,
a lager, standalone. As you kind of get the ABV there, it fits into that category. As much as they go into the three kinds of beer, the mouldings, the yeast, the two, blah 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 blah, different type of hops they have. It's you will know the taste before you've had the taste of this beer. Mm-hmm. It will be drawing back a lot of parallels to a lot of other beers that you've had, which are very clean. They go down well. They're non-offensive. Yeah. You could probably drink or consume it with food and it not be doing any disservice to the food. You could have it on a hot day. You could have it on a cold morning if you're that way inclined. And it's kind of good for all occasions, but it kind of lacks a little bit of real something.
Not a thought provoking beer, I suppose.
It's a stat. I'll hold my hands up. This is the first Polish beer I think I've ever had. And the fact that it has this rich heritage about Poland and where it's come from, and I love finding out about that. I had no idea about this. Obviously it's got 1629 and a Polish crown and a Polish recipe, written on the label, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It must be like something linked with Polish royalty, but it's not too far from the truth. But the fact remains is I found out a lot more from it since diving into the history behind it than I ever have done from looking at it on the shelf and going, oh, I'll try that one.
Well, it's funny. You were just saying about the non-offensiveness and the multiple purposes that you have for this beer. That I put it down has got to be a contributing factor to its survival from 1629, and that you don't get through 400 years without pleasing quite a few people at the same time.
Basically. I think you're absolutely right. And also, generations of people. This is not just a brewery that's like, one and done. Like, they've been around for so long for obvious reasons, and this is breweries like this make me kind of just look at, those that are saying down with the old guard, down with the old breweries, and, just new breweries are the only way forward and craft is best and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, there are companies out there that have been around since 1629, mate. They're going to be around for a lot longer than this. Like, there's a reason why these breweries are here, and that they have spanned generations, decades,
And it's fair to say how of the many breweries that, let's say, have started up since, let's say, just take from since the year 2000. I think a lot of them will be doing very well to be around in 2400. That would just be remarkable, wouldn't it?
That would be.
A lot is going to happen between now and then.
And quite a lot of those breweries are going to have to change their attitude to how they sell their beer and what their beer is made of to be, to do that. Imagine Brewdog's branding in 2400.
Well, I was just going to say they're the ones. I was about to say Brewdog as the ones who will be like, well, they've made the most. It depends. They've made enemies as well, haven't they? But they've made the most friends, haven't they?
Oh, I don't know. They're vilified. I don't know this. I think they're kind of
there's a lot of
becoming
people
a bit of the
actually hate them now,
Marmite.
Andrew.
But then that's what they've always played on. They want people to hate them because that gives them more notoriety, gives them more of a talking point.
Yeah.
They don't want to be loved by everyone, and that's what people don't get. I love our community here at the I'll Try That podcast and people who send me stuff and and kind of we have these kind of like things through email and Instagram primarily that are sent to us through our DMs, sliding into our DMs, which is just great. But
We love that.
a lot of it is like, Brewdog, the latest stuff from Brewdog, which is relatively negative. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's like great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm not a Brewdog fanboy in the sense that I'm like, I won't hear to the bad news. Of course, they've got bad news going on. It's, it's interesting, all news, but this is a company, I'm afraid to say, that thrives on the good and the bad news. If anything, they thrive more on the bad news because we as human beings, we remember bad news way more, like 5 times as much as we remember good news.
No such thing as bad publicity.
That's exactly it, and that's what they've always done. I mean, if you look back to Brewdog in their early years, they were picking fights with everyone. Literally, that's the punks of beer, and they're just like picking fights. Anyway. This was an episode about Brewdog. This is an episode about a very, very long-standing and standing the test of time brewery. Tyskie. Sorry, Barber. Do the pronunciation again.
Sorry, I'm saying Tyskie, but I think it's now. I think it's now written for our pronunciation. Does that make sense?
No, I get that. A lot of brands have done that. I mean, I was working with Qingdao, who's respelt their name for easier for international audiences to pronounce their name.
With you
as well.
Yeah. Not
so similar
Tsingtao.
to these guys. Yeah. It's not Tsingtao, exactly, and they've done a lot of marketing campaigns to let you know, no, it's Qingdao is how you would pronounce it. So anyway.
So, I think these guys have gone the other way. So it would be, we would read it as Titchy, but it is meant to be pronounced Tyskie, whereas I think if, this is just my interpretation, I really don't know for sure, but they put it down as Tyskie, so we all say it correctly.
Well, they've changed the spelling.
Yeah.
They've changed the spelling to help us pronounce it correctly.
It does feel like I need help reading. That's pretty much, that's my takeaway. But how do they do on numbers though? Do they even? I mean, if they don't have a website or Instagram and Twitter,
they don't really. I was trying to look for them before.
Do you know what? In many ways, fair play to them.
I will say, Tyskie do have a Polish website.
Tyskie Gronie.
Yeah, Tyskie.pl, if you want to look it up yourself. I'm just going to go in. They have a 0.0, if you're keen to know. And they don't advertise their Instagram or their Twitter, so I couldn't tell you what their numbers are because I can't find them on Instagram or Twitter. But they do have a spanking website on Tyskie.pl, spelt how the name of the brand is, .pl. And it's all in Polish, so get you to Google Translate going. And there's a flashy website showing their Tyskie product, their Gronie that we're trying, and also their 0.0 version as well. And they do say they have an Instagram, and I've just found it, and it has 10.8k followers. So that was a long way around. I might cut that whole bit out and get straight to 10.8k.
10.8, and I'll make an appreciative noise, and I'll go, ooh, 10.8.
Oh, yeah, Tyskie.
Nice. Tyskie.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barber,
and Simo.
Goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com.
And watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.